Fantastic. Well, good morning to you all. It is Wednesday, the 12th of November. It's 11 o'clock. Thanks very much for joining us for our webinar today, discussing how we can future-proof your bureau. We move through to the next slide. I'll just introduce everyone that's joining us this morning. So, firstly, my name is Chris. I'm Head of New Business here at the Axis Group. And I'm joined today by my colleagues, Hannah, who is our Product Manager for Payroll Bureau, and Andrea, who is our Senior Solutions Consultant. So hi to you both. Thanks for joining us. You'll see Andrea come on the screen a little bit later on. She's waiting in the wings, as it were.
Morning, Chris. Really glad to be here.
Good. Thank you for joining us. Now, to set the scene for you guys so you understand what we're going to be doing today, Hannah and I will be having a discussion really around what's involved and what to consider when choosing the right software for your bureau in 2026. And this isn't just a beauty shop list of these are the great things to have, thanks very much. It's a real pragmatic overview of what you should consider and what the intricate benefits are to your organisation.
Exactly. Real challenges, real solutions.
Excellent. And the benefit of having Hannah with us is that we can talk not only about what we see and what we hear, but also put in a light dusting, really, of what that looks like in a real solution, being the Payroll Bureau solution. And towards the end, as I mentioned, Andrea will join us and we'll actually then apply what that looks like and hopefully help you understand what it looks like in software, in live play, so you can really use that as you're going forward and making some evaluations. Now, this webinar is interactive, so just saw some brief geography for you on your screen. To the right, there is a chat function. So if you have any questions throughout, and indeed we'll ask you some questions, it'd be great if you can interact, because it gets pretty lonely if not. Pop them in there and our moderators will pick those up and pass them through to us as well. So it's a really good way to interact. This is all recorded, so the recording will come out at the end of the session as well. So you can refer back or share with colleagues some of the things that you've learned, should you wish to. Fantastic. All right, so we'll kick off first by understanding and discussion why technology matters and why the decision is so important. So, Hannah, you're speaking to bureaus day in, day out. What are you hearing right now?
I think there's a really common theme in the market at the moment, and I think AI has a lot to answer for on that. And it is people now more than ever are being asked to do more with less. Which is interesting. It's always been that way for bureaus, I feel, but just now more than ever.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And you're seeing client expectations are shifting?
Oh, 100%. So, God, it wasn't that long ago customers would be happy with, their report sent via a password-protected zip file on an email in a specific time and a specific date. But more so now, customers are expecting portals for their employees. They're expecting something to log into, to be able to perhaps even edit bits in the payroll as opposed to just being furnished with PDF reports. They want something a little bit more dynamic, not only for them, but for their employees too. Okay.
And I think we're all probably well aware that HMRC aren't making lives any easier for any of us, particularly those in bureaus, and that sort of compliance piece is ever growing, right?
Yeah, 100%. And it's the changes they're introducing, whilst they seem to be, we get less time to react to them.
Yeah.
They're releasing these changes closer and closer to the new tax year every year. But also we're seeing it impact not just your usual bandings and rates. It's new types of parental leave, for example. It's changing the age ranges for national minimum wage and pensions and things like that, not just the rates, which is more common to what we used to see. It felt very stagnant for quite a while in terms of just those rate increases, but lots of new things coming in.
Brilliant. It's good to see the stability of the political landscape not impacting HMRC too much. And it's not just that. I think what I see from my view, working with a number of bureaus, is that bureaus whose software can't keep up with the demands, right, both compliance but also what their customers want and see, are effectively having to turn away new clients. So if you think about that, you turn away clients, that's turning away revenue, and the reality is that's because of bottlenecks within their system.
Yeah. I think one point I forget to mention as well, Chris, with regards to client expectations shifting, is that and we monitor this from a platform perspective on our side, is when customers are logging in. So that is clients of the bureau logging in and wanting to sign off their reports when it's convenient for them. So we see people signing off their payrolls at 10 o'clock at night sometimes.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So they're sort of working all hours to get things done. So I would love to know, those that are watching it and with us right now, how many of you are still manually chasing clients for information every month? So we talked about some of the things that would be good to have, but timesheets, new starters, contract changes, those late sign-offs that Hannah just mentioned. The chat's open. Feel free to drop a note in there as to, are you on board with that, and are you experiencing some of those things?
Yeah, I'm seeing quite a lot of hands up there, Chris.
Yeah. So hopefully we are all well, it's good to hear that we are all on the same hymn sheet, as it were. Lots of our clients that look to come across to Payroll Bureau, but also a lot of people that we do talk to, spending time on low value admin instead of effectively growing your business and reaching those goals. So the right software is what becomes your competitive advantage. The wrong software can be the biggest problem for your business. If we can move to the next slide, let's look at what future ready can look like. Awesome. So we've talked about future ready software, but it's, often that can just be marketing buzzwords. But if we move away from that, there's practical capabilities. What should bureaus actually be looking for, Hannah?
Okay, so I think the first one is scalable workflows. And you hear the word scalability banded out quite a lot across the market. But I mean, Chris, when you're talking to bureaus, what does scalability mean for them?
Yeah, a really good question. And I think it can vary between bureaus, but effectively a lot of the conversation stems around, I can take on 50 more clients without needing to employ 2, 3, 4 new payroll processors. Now, if you're stagnant or you're using software that doesn't support you, it sounds impossible, especially when you do things manually. But the benefit of automation, gives you a real route to making that possible.
Yeah, automating those mundane, same tasks each period, automating those submissions to RTI. If you can, if it's a payroll that's got no changes on for that period, for example, auto running the payroll, anything that's a recurring task that is somebody keying the same thing each time, it's about automating that, making it a scalable task. And the next for me is, we kind of touched on this previously, but it's client-facing tools. So it's portals, it's dashboards, it's self-service, it's enabling employees to also have the option to change their details if they need to via a payroll portal. For those smaller customers, particularly that maybe don't have access to a all singing, all dancing HR platform, it's about giving the employees the ability to go in, input their own bank details, for example.
Yeah, and ultimately that's taking work off of the payroll process within the bureau's plate, right? So if employees and the end users can be doing a lot of that own work, it's dozens of small amounts of tasks that are removed. And so in a high demanding role, those minutes are really going to add up.
Yeah, and things like built-in emails, not having to do that yourself. It used to take me, all in all, across a month of payroll processing, it would take me days just to download zip and password protect reports. Being able to just have an automated email that goes to your customer that says your reports are ready, log in here, speeds things up so much.
Yeah, a huge benefit. So what about compliance? We've just mentioned our friends at the HMRC, but this is just huge, right? Even moving forward into the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you should expect your software to be able to handle those compliance pieces for you. They shouldn't be adding more manual tasks to your team. They should be built in. So everything like auto enrollment, for example, there are still some platforms out there that instead of taking care of that for you, you'd have to download a file, load it up to the pension provider, where actually those pension providers have APIs that should be being leveraged to make all of that more automated. CIS, IR35, all of that good stuff. There are ways of automating it. So if there are ways, if there's APIs, if it's not an older provider or a legacy provider, then you should be able to automate that with your software.
Yeah. And that's it, right? You should be able to automate things in 2025. But the reality is, I know that we only signed a new bureau to join us last week, and they were still manually calculating IR35, right? So it's still happening, perhaps more so than we would actually like it to be.
Yeah, definitely. And the final, which I kind of touched on there as well, Chris, was integration ready. So I mentioned integrations with pension providers and APIs, but it's not just about pension providers, it's about your accounting software, your APIs, what can you hook into for that end piece for your clients. So, it's often spoke about payroll being the end piece of the HR flow, but it's not. You've then got your accounting out the other side. So it's about automating, connecting with other accountancy softwares like Xero, but also being able to produce files that, again, can load directly into those flexible files that you can design that can load into any provider.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. And ultimately, if we're eliminating rekeying, we're reducing or trying to eliminate errors as well, which just makes the process easier, reduces hours of lost time, which can really benefit the team.
Exactly.
Cool. So again, I've got a question, so I'm going to ask the question, but I've also got a question back at the audience. What's eating up most of your time right now? What are those recurring tasks that just drain hours each month? Because we'd love to hear what they are. And while you're coming back with that, Hannah, I don't know if you can ask this question or if we'll wait for Andrea to ask it, but how does PayCircle automatically handle CIS returns and different deduction rates? Okay, can you jump on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can configure that within the employee's profile and within your company settings so that it is automatically applied on the HMR submissions and also the CIS statements as opposed to pay slips.
Yeah, cool. So just for those watching to bear in mind, later on we'll talk about evaluation criteria and what could be good to be asking bureaus you're looking at. And that's exactly the type of question you should be thinking about. How does a system that you're looking to invest in work, and how easy is it to configure? And if you're getting simple answers back and the ability to show you, that's a really good sign.
With CIS specifically as well, all of the verification, the CIS verification, you'd be looking for that as well.
Awesome. Smash it. Okay, so if we can move on to some common bureau pain points. Awesome. So let's, I guess, be really quite honest and pragmatic about what we hear from bureaus before they make a switch. So as an organisation, we are often speaking with bureaus that are in that process. And what we have here are some common pain points. So Hannah, perhaps you want to touch upon the first one.
Yeah, so too much manual data entry, things that you are unable to import once your customer's provided it to you. Or again, the lack of giving your customers the ability to directly input that into the payroll themselves, where it's not going to create any risk or, it doesn't require payroll specialist knowledge. It is just a value. Yeah. Having those options available to you. So you're not having to rekey the same thing for multiple employees. And another good example, certainly for those smaller customers that people have, they don't have a HR platform, or perhaps if they do, they don't want to be rekeying starter information in two different places. They want to be able to send you an extract from whatever they're using and for you to be able to use that effectively. So You're looking at flexibility with regards to how you can get stuff into your platform.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Sorry, got tongue-tied there. Clients demanding better visibility is the second. Now, we've just talked about this really in the ability to have dashboards and similar. Your client base want reports on demand. They want instant access to the data. And ultimately, if you can't provide it as a service provider, they're going to look to other bureaus that can. I think that's a really sort of key point to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Okay. And then chasing information, delays, everything. I think we're sort of seeing a bit of a theme here. If you're waiting on data to come through, sending reminder emails, there's follow up. It's all delaying your entire process through those months, through those weeks, or even into those months, like you sort of said, Hannah, and touching upon some of that. And that month-end chaos. Now, I guess I'm quite privileged that I haven't had to go through the month-end chaos in actually processing bureau, but Hannah, you have, so you can perhaps touch on this more. But last week of the month, people staying late, processing payroll at 10 o'clock at night, like you said, scrambling to get things processed, real major sort of pain points for the teams.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone will be familiar with that month-end chaos, unfortunately, with monthly payrolls. It is always end of the month or last working day predominantly. So, yeah, again, automation plays a big part here, being able to structure and input your data quickly from your customers will enable you to work across multiple payrolls at once, right? So you've got your teams can access different payrolls. They can load in that data quickly. You've got automation there to support you, and you half the time of what it takes to process your payrolls usually on a legacy platform.
Yeah. And what are your thoughts on you can't scale without hiring?
It's a really interesting one. I think nowadays, and this is really key to be looking for within your platform, you should absolutely be able to scale without hiring. And like we say, the changes that have happened over the last 3 or 4 years, moving to a newer platform that enables you to get that data into the system quicker. Again, you should be able to take on 50 customers without having to hire, for example.
Yeah, cool. That makes a lot of sense. Now, when bureaus like yourselves are evaluating software and looking for new software, there are some serious red flags that we should perhaps be looking for. And getting it wrong does have quite a large impact. Might not be immediate, but will over the course of your tenure with your new solution. So, Hannah, let's perhaps touch on these, and I'll cover off the first one. Overcomplicated platforms that require extensive training. So, this is very much where we're trying to head today, and showing you and giving you an experience of what a platform should and could look like when it's designed for bureaus. But if it takes your experienced processors 3 months to feel confident on a solution, ultimately, that you've made the wrong choice. Good software needs to and should feel intuitive and should feel an extension of your day-to-day activities. Hannah, what do you think about the migration?
Yeah, migration is a real big player, and it ties into what you just said, Chris. Those first 3 months of using a platform, your migration support, getting upskilled on how to use certain features, navigate your way around, but also know where to go if you do have a question or you do need support. Having those built-in tools to enable you to ask those questions, get an instant response is really important. You're not just kind of given a report, given an import and left to get on with it. You're shown how to use it, and you're shown the different ways in which you can use it as well from the off. I mean, if getting the right start on a platform is crucial to the success moving forwards.
Yeah, no, cool. That makes sense. One that I come across quite often, hidden costs after signing. So commercial conversations are part of my bread and butter. And ultimately, if you lock in with a new vendor and they're sort of like, well, you want that, that's an extra cost. You want that, that's an extra cost. This, that, and the other. It really can be quite complex and also have a bit of a bad taste in your mouth. So I think it's really important, and it's a red flag also to look out for, to understand total cost of purchase, total cost of ownership upfront in that process. And that ties quite nicely, Hannah, with the vendor lock-in.
Yeah. So you'll see certain vendors that will, and you don't want to be thinking about this when you want to be thinking about it ahead of signing with your vendor. You don't want to get to the point where you've signed and then you have to think about what happens if I want to leave. It is always something that you should have in the back of your mind, or in the forefront, should I say, in the forefront of your mind when you're talking to vendors in those early stages. Should anything go wrong and you want to leave or you want to migrate away, what does that look like? How can you get your data out of that platform? Do they make it really difficult for you to do so? Unfortunately, we do see that in PayCircle with some of our customers. We make it as easy as possible to get around that with flexibility. You can load in FPSs and things like that. But, it's kind of twofold, that one. You want to check with your vendor, if you were to leave, what does that process look like? What does offboarding look like? But equally, again, always looking at how easily can I get data into this platform? Is it very rigid in the format, in the layout of which I have to load data in?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And like you said, those rigid systems can't adapt to processes as well as how you're getting data in and getting data out. And organizations, you end up having to change how you work, right? And that can be a big red flag for you. So let's apply some practicality here. We've talked about some of the common bureau pain points and kind of things that red flags that you should look for. We've also looked at future proofing. So we're going to bring in Andrea now. Looking at PayCircle as a bureau, built for and built by Bureau. So if you'll indulge us in a few minutes, this is just one of many solutions out there, but ultimately this is perhaps how you can touch and look and feel what a good solution or what the right solution should look for. So Andrea, welcome. Thanks for joining us. I'll hand over to you. Don't go too fast because I'm going to have some questions for you.
Lovely, thank you. It was nice to be here. Really interesting listening to the conversation with you and Hannah there. So I just want to touch on a few of the things and a few of the sort of subjects that you have been speaking about so far, and show you what good looks like in our platform and how some of these kind of pain points can be alleviated. Some of the things that you just mentioned there in terms of what you should be looking for and what you really need to be thinking about as you're going through kind of vendor selection for Bureau software. So I've shared my screen. So the first thing to mention here that this is obviously a web-based platform. All systems that you should be looking at now will probably be web-based, as this one is. I'm just going to make it full screen. The first thing I want to kind of touch on is how you manage kind of multiple clients, all of your different payrolls in one place. So you can see here, I've logged in as a Bureau user onto our PayCircle platform, and I have one centralized dashboard that allows me to see this nice helicopter view of what's going on with all of my payrolls. So you can see here, for example, how many payrolls I have, what the sum total of the number of employees across those payrolls I have is, and also with nice little indicators in terms of how many employees or payrolls you're up or down compared to last month. So for example, if you were charging per payslip, this would give you really good performance indicators for your bureau. So we can also see things like...
Sorry,
Chris, go on.
Before I ask, so you're not logging into separate systems for each client then? It is sort of one...
No, absolutely, yeah. You've got one platform that will manage all of your clients. So this workflow dashboard here will show me where we are at a more granular level for each of our different payrolls. So you can see how many payrolls are overdue. You can see here that we've committed the ultimate sin of payroll, and I've got some payrolls that are overdue. We can see what's due today, what's due in the next 2 days. But importantly, I'm not having to, as you say, Chris, log in and out of different systems. I can see it all in one place.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. We also have lots of automation tools within here as well. Again, that was kind of a topic that you and Hannah were talking about in terms of making sure that you're not having to manually do things like zip up reports and email them to customers and password protect them. There's lots of different tools that Bureau software vendors will have in their armory to help with the automation. So within our solution, for example, on my company's dashboard here, I can see all of the different payrolls that I have set up. I can group them if I want to. So if I want to create little kind of pockets of payrolls per payroll exec that's dealing with, if they have their own allocation of payrolls, if you wanted to group them by sector and things like that, you can do that as well. But if I go into one specific payroll and go into the settings of it, this is where we can start to bring alive some of those automations. So the first one I want to talk about is our workflow tool. So our workflow tool within PayCircle controls that back and forth and automates the back and forth between a payroll bureau and their client. So between a payroll exec and their client. So it's over a 4-stage workflow. So the first point of call, the payroll information stage, is a point that our clients do. So they actually log into the portal and they tell us what they need us to do in terms of running their payroll. So they have a portal which they log into. They tell us about their new starters, their leavers. They can upload their overtime. They can give us all of those instructions through a portal, which completely removes the need for emails, which gives you obviously lots of efficiencies there. Yeah. It also allows clients to tag in their administrators as well. So they can use it as kind of like a messaging portal. So nothing's going to get missed, nothing's going to get forgotten about. And if, of course, you have people who are on leave in the bureau, then that work can be easily handed over to somebody else. Okay.
Really good tool then for managing multiple sort of pieces of information all in one place. That's great.
Yeah, exactly. After the client has submitted all of their information, a task is then sent back to you guys in the bureau so that you can actually perform those actions, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. And then it gives you the ability to run some reports. So you can just run a calculation and that will give you a standard bank of reports. So you won't have to run reports separately, again, giving you some efficiencies there, but it also gives you checking tools to enable you to check and sign off your clients' payrolls before you present it back to them. So again, trying to make the process more efficient, so you're not having that constant back and forth.
Yeah.
So you're checking, doing all your sign off before then your customers are then presented with their reports. The customer then has the ability again to log on via the portal and do their own checks and balances. They can see those reports, they can make sure they're comfortable with them. And again, via the communication tools within the platform, they can tell you if there's something that's not right, or query it if there's something they're unsure of, which again is removing all the noise that goes on around payroll. There's one version of the truth, and it's all contained within the platform.
Right.
The final part of it is the run payroll, which I'm going to show you in action in a second, but that gives you the ability to click one button and it does multiple different tasks in one go. So if I just go into this particular payroll's actual live payroll, this is a weekly payroll. We're running the current week's payroll. You can see here that at the top, we've gone through all of those different stages of the workflow and we're at the run payroll. So what that means is I've run the payroll, my client has signed off, they've given me the okay to finalize their payroll. If I click this one button, it will give me again a series of checks and balances just to make sure that I'm fine with everything. And then if I click run payroll, it will do all of these checks in the background. So it sends the data to the revenue. It does the pension submissions. It prepares the pay slips and emails out the employees. It rolls us forward to next period. If it's the end of year, it produces the P60s. And it also invites new employees to start using the payroll portal, all via that one click of a button. So you haven't got to do anything else. There's not kind of a series of post-payroll activities that you need to do in terms of, running a new set of reports. It's done that. You don't have to produce your P45s. It's done that. You don't have to produce your batch file. It's done that. So it does all of these activities at the click of one button.
Yeah, so it's really sort of condensing and makes a really concise way to run payroll, which is fantastic. So let me ask you a question. I guess tying to this, the big buzzword at the minute is sort of AI. So how's that being brought into payroll or into the solution?
Well, yeah, as you say, that's a real hot topic at the moment. I think I get asked about AI in pretty much every meeting that I'm having with clients and prospective clients at the moment. And it's one that we are heavily investing in across Access. One of the AI features we're rolling out shortly is our smart menu. And this is going to give bureau execs an assessment of the payroll that they're working on. So essentially, the AI tool will flag any anomalies. It will explain differences between the last payroll run and this payroll run. So it's all designed to help check your payroll without payroll execs having to go through reports and spot things. So previously, you might have gone through like a gross to net report and made sure that the net total was around about the same as what it would have been last week or last month. Or you might go through and have a look at your starters and leavers report and make sure that it correlates to the starters and leavers that you were expecting for this month's payroll. All of those kind of check-ins will be removed and replaced with an AI tool that will alert you to things. So it will tell you how many starters and leavers you've got and what those starters and leavers are. It will flag any anomalies and try and explain the differences and why they've come up as well. Yeah. All right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, I think sort of all the investment in AI is fantastic, and for our audience, it's a key development area for the Access Group across our products. So we look forward to sharing more as we can in the future. Excellent. All right, so we have got some questions coming through. What I'm going to do is tie those up, and we'll try and cover those at the end, because I'm very conscious of the time that you guys have given us as well this morning to share what we're learning. So that was kind of a little overview of PayCircle in action. And obviously, if you are so inclined, we would love to show you more about the product and really sort of understand where you are. The key thing to take away from that is that when you look for software built specifically for bureaus, not adapted from single company payroll, which we often see, you get a much greater, richer experience that can enhance how you typically process the payrolls for the organizations that you work with or for your customer base. So hopefully that's just a hint of what you should be thinking about, looking for and experiencing when you evaluate new software. So let's look at what to look for when choosing. And I think this is great. So getting the evaluation process right is really quite key, not just in the short term, but in the long term, right? We've probably all been at some point in your career through a payroll software change of some shape. And it's not necessarily always the greatest of experiences if you get it wrong. So let's go through some of these key points. Hannah, you've probably more experience than I in this. Get the right team involved. Why is this so important?
Oh, so important. You want to make sure you have representatives at every level from different areas of your business. It can't just be an IT decision. It can't just be a director or a partner's decision. You need to have people that are currently responsible for running payrolls on your existing platform, that know where the pain is, that will ask the right questions to help you scale today. So what is taking them loads of time? And you need different levels in those conversations. You know, your first demo might be extremely polished, particularly for an MD, and it will look great, but you want to be able to get under the bonnet and ask the more detailed questions.
Yeah, no, I hear that. And we have been and triaged a few clients whose MD has made that decision of, like you sort of said, the glitz and glam of the solution, but it didn't speak to the people who are processing on a day-to-day basis, which is, quite an expensive mistake to make.
Uh-huh.
Cool. So define the must-haves versus the nice-to-haves. So I often see this in my role, but, really go through that methodically, write down, make a list, but then also stick to it, right? Because ultimately the must-haves are integral to the way that you work and integral to you in as an organization. So if you're starting to miss those out, or you get bored into that glitz and glam view, they can often cause a disruption later on. Hannah, what are the must-haves you look at?
So you've got your fundamentals, right? Your automations of RTI and pension submissions nowadays, they're a fundamental, they're a non-negotiable. But also things like workflow now, being able to collaborate with your customers without inside the platform, and things like an employee portal, I think, should be on your must-have lists. Fundamentals, functionality, of course, you want to check those as well, but I think you can expect them to be there. And nice-to-haves might be a mobile app. You've got web apps. You might want an actual mobile app for employees and your customers. And it might be certain integrations. What integrations are must-haves and what integrations are nice-to-haves, providing you have a file that you can lift and shift. So really think about that. What's important from an integration perspective with your must-haves and nice-to-haves as well.
Yeah, cool. And I guess this ties in really with requesting demos with your scenarios, that salespeople are very good at showing impressive features, but actually it's the practicality of that must-have that can really distinguish between the two. Yeah,
you should definitely go prepared with scenarios that have perhaps caught you out before. I mean, and you've got to kind of be fair, approach it with a level head, but you should be able to go to your demos with a list of scenarios, and the person doing the demo should be able to show you. If they can't, that's a red flag for me. Or if they say they're not willing to show specific scenarios, then that would be a bit of a red flag. You should delve deeper into those.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, checking references thoroughly. So, we all well know, working in the bureau world, that there is a whole raft of networks. So I've got sort of two points here in terms of when you're running your process. One, challenge and ask the vendors to provide you with references of organizations that are similar in number of clients or size or whatever else. But then the second is use your networks. Go out and speak to associations of bureau providers, etc., and really ask about people's experience of using the solution, not just in the sales cycle, but on a day-to-day basis of service, etc. So you get a real true snapshot of what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. The last one, I think we've kind of alluded to it already, Chris, but this sits firmly in your world, I guess, understanding the total cost of ownership, not getting caught out there.
Yeah, completely. We talked a little bit about hidden costs before and those types of things. But, holistically, you need to look at, if I make this investment, what does it look like over the term of the contract? So, they're 12, 24, 36 months or beyond. It's not just a monthly subscription. And there's also things like, how does it work if we scale? We talked about the fact that you could add 50 new clients without increasing the workforce because of how a solution works. So if you do that, what does it look like with the vendor that you're speaking to? Ultimately, like Hannah said, there are software vendors out there. We are one of them, but there are others who want to support this type of conversation, because this kind of strategy and long-term thinking it's a real good investment, real good indication. So there are vendors out there who will love to have this conversation. And if they do, that's a really good buying signal. And the things you want to look at are implementation costs, training, support, integrations, migration. You need to understand that entire picture. We often see other vendors in the marketplace quote that low monthly price, and that might be attractive, but you need to see that all-in number to be really truly reflective of your investment. Okay, so critical questions to be asking. So these it kind of feels like a bit like mastermind. Get them in the chair and hit them with the next 5. Hannah, you're well placed to take these. So migration, what does that look like?
Yeah, you should be asking these questions from the off. What does your migration look like? What is the process? How much support are you going to get throughout your migration? Do you have a dedicated person that's going to walk you through it? How many training sessions do you get, for example? Who's going to actually migrate the data? Have a plan your side as well for that. So who in your team is going to do the migration? Are you going to have a specific migrations team? Is each exec going to have a certain number themselves? And that then ties in nicely with, okay, what are we defining as go live here? Make sure you're really clear as to what go live is for both you and your vendor. And then what support will you get once you've actually gone live? So typically you will get more support when you're in that migration period. And then after go live, you'll still receive support, but it's really important to understand what that looks like. Again, do you have a dedicated person that you can contact? Is it chat support? Are there different levels available to you? And Chris, I was just going to carry on going through the critical questions there, but don't know if you want to pause. Yeah. Just in the interest of time, sorry, I'm on a roll. Third one, really important for me as a product manager as well, is what is on your product roadmap and having visibility of your vendor's product roadmap. That is something that we at Access are working on at the moment. We have moved platforms from a product perspective, and we're hoping to get kind of the more dynamic roadmaps out to our customers now, so they can see what's come in, what stage in the process it's at, a bit more detail behind what we're building there. And I think that's really important. Of course, vendors might be nervous about roadmaps because things can change, but I think having that dynamic, open conversation with your vendors is really important. If they're really reluctant to show you anything, bit of a red flag. Can we speak to other bureaus using your software? I think, Chris, you've alluded to this already. Make sure you go out there and don't just ask the vendor, use your networks, contact the Bureau Association, other people like that. Use those forums within the bureau space. And we did touch on this at the start. Again, a very important point. What would offboarding look like if we chose to exit?
Yeah,
cool. Is there any cost associated with that? And how easy is it for us to offboard our information? Hopefully you won't ever have to, right? But really important to ask that question.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, thanks, Hannah. And hopefully you can understand that there is a level of investment here, right, to make the change and look for a new vendor. But also don't be scared off by this. Ultimately, this is that investment. This is this fundamental change for your business that unlocks and allows you to get to the next step in whatever your growth plan or trajectory of your organization is. But by making the right level and asking the right questions, you really weed out, to see sort of those good, solid vendors who can really support your business going forward. What I will say, and I see this a lot in my role, the cheapest option is rarely the most cost effective. We've talked hidden versus visible costs. Think about the total value to a business. It's not just price. Often it's the signs, of time back, of ease of use, of experience within service, of roadmap. It's a combination of all these things, and that'll come from your must-haves versus your nice-to-haves, but also the feel and experience you get throughout the evaluation process with the vendor. So if you're talking to a vendor who wants to support you through that journey, then you're in a good place, right? If you get that warm feeling, you're in a really good place. Cool. So let's just wrap to the next slide. I just wanted to touch on with you, Hannah. We've covered a lot here. There are a couple of things that we can provide. So the first is the evaluation checklist, and I've looked at this and I think it's a real fantastic tool. So must-haves, nice-to-haves, we've covered that in quite a lot of detail. But this checklist that we'll provide afterwards allows you to sort of go down a list of, in our experience, what we've seen and what we get asked for, and allows you to sort of compare across the market. So that'll be coming out to you shortly.
Yeah, and the next, I guess, is a tailored demo. So Andrea just touched the tip of the iceberg there in terms of what is available within PayCircle. So if you want to have a demo of PayCircle, not just generic, geared to your bureau with specific requirements, get in touch with the team. We can show you and we can answer any further questions there in terms of what questions you might not have asked us that you should have as well.
Yeah. And what I will say is, we encourage you to evaluate the whole market. Look at a load of different vendors, look what's right for you and what matches you. But if you want a taste for what good can look like and an experience or a benchmark setting, then, PayCircle is one of those solutions there that can help you. And we'd be really pleased to help you in any way we can.
Also, just selfishly, from a product perspective, sorry, Chris, feedback for us. Feedback for us on our product, what you'd like to see more of, what you've seen on the market that you don't see in PayCircle. We really want to hear your feedback from a product team. We want to know what we don't have, what we don't already know, what's not on our radar, what else is out there, and what would you guys want?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, feedback. I think someone once said to me, feedback's a gift, and we, definitely within our bureau environment, we really, really do practice that because we want to further improve the solution as best we can to suit the market. And that is the expert support tie-in as well. So today you've met Hannah, you've met Andrew as well. We have a whole host of channels. We have a QR code there. If you know what that is or how it works, feel free to use it. And there are different ways that, that you can come through to us and ask us some questions. Now, we've had a Q&A running on the side. We've got a number of questions, but I'm really conscious that you have all dedicated 30 minutes of your day to speaking to us, and we've gone up to 40 minutes. So what we're going to do is go through that Q&A in our response. It gives us time to give you really sort of detailed responses as well, and we'll send that out in our emails to you, which will come very, very shortly from our team here at Access. So with that, Hannah, thanks very much for your time. Appreciate it, and thanks for sharing your insights. Andrew is still here, although you can't see her. But again, thank you very much for dedicating your time to sharing your insight and navigation of the solution for our audience. From me, thanks for joining us. We do really appreciate it. This session is recorded, so there'll be a follow-up coming out where you can download the recording, share it with your colleagues if you so wish. Like I said, there's some other bits and pieces coming out, that checklist being one of those. And, more than anything, we just hope that this helps you with your exploration of potential new vendors in 2026. And of course, if we can be one of those, then we'd welcome the opportunity to work with you and your bureau. But with that, thank you very much for your time, and have a good day.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.